Big Road Blues by Tommy Johnson. This song written and recorded in the late 1920s. Tommy Johnson, no relationship to Robert Johnson. Tommy Johnson was also a Delta blues player, but he recorded a little bit before Robert Johnson. What drew my attention to this song in particular was a performance by a modern-day blues musician named Nathan James, and I saw him at the NAMM show a couple years ago, and he did this song, and I just fell in love with it. But the original from Tommy Johnson. Okay, let's look at the first verse, and then we're going to look at some alternative verses using cage system and some other ideas, just using sort of some scale tones and riff ideas. So the first verse, or the initial groove I should say, is this is in D, and we're in drop D tuning. So I've taken the 6th string and I've tuned it down from E to D. So now I've got 4th string at D and 6th string at D. Tune that up a little bit. And so it's in D and a 12-bar blues, and the chords will be D, G, and A. So my initial riff starts the D chord, but instead of making my D chord like I normally would, like so, I'm going to bar the 3 strings at the 2nd fret, middle finger on the 2nd string 3rd fret, and I go between that D chord and this, which is a D diminished chord, and simply all I'm doing there is I'm allowing my 1st finger to slide down to the 1st fret. My ring finger will go and take the 2nd string 3rd fret. So, and that's how I'm going in between those 2 chords. Okay, and then the verse starts, and we're playing this walking bass pattern on the 6th and 4th string, which, as we said, are both D notes. My joke sometimes that this sounds like a disco bass. Take that as you will, but I don't think they had disco back in the 1920s. But it's a nice, it actually establishes a nice groove, especially for a solo guitar. Then we go to a G7 chord, and here's the fingering that you'll see for a lot of songs in drop D tuning for the G7 chord. Start with my middle finger on the 5th string 2nd fret, 1st finger's on the 1st string 1st fret, and pinky on the 2nd string 3rd fret. And here I'm playing a monotonic or dead thumb bass. Little triplet riff, pulling off of the 1st string, ending up on the 2nd string. Back to our D chord. We got our A chord, and that's sort of a very standard, what would be a G shape chord, but it's actually, we're not using that full position. We're using the open A string and barring 4 strings, and then playing the 1st string at the 3rd fret. And then we play, move down to the G7. This time I'm playing the 7th, which is an F, on the 4th string, 3rd fret. Actually, I don't go there yet. Sorry, that's in the next verse. I'm going back to. Let me play the whole verse. Riding ain't going down this big road by myself. I don't Jimmy talking. Bread and mom, I go to G7. Back to D. Then we go to A. G. Back to D. Okay, now let's do a verse variation based on the cage system. So let me play the variation and I'll explain what it is. That's where I played the descending bass. Anyways, first part of that is the D chord, 4 bars of D. And this time I'm going to use a G-shaped D chord, abbreviated of course. Barring at the 7th fret, 4 strings, pinkies coming up to the 10th fret on the 1st string, and I do a descending melody line. Coming down 10th fret, 8th fret, 7th fret on the 1st string, back to the 10th fret on the 2nd string, 7th fret 1st string, 10th fret 3rd string, and 7th fret on the 2nd string. Okay, then I go to the G chord, the 4 chord. And I'm going to use an E shape, which normally you'd make a 7th chord, E shape like so, or like so. But since the 6th string's tuned down, I got to play my bass note 2 frets up from where it would normally be. So there's my 7th chord. Here's my low bass note, G. And I'm playing some melody notes on the 2nd string. And then I come back to my D chord. Now, there's a descending line I'm going to use here that's going to get me back to, or it's going to get me to the 5 chord, the A chord. So what's going on there? This is kind of cool. These are partial D chords, versions of D chords. That's what we do going down, but how is that a partial? Well, that is a partial A-shaped D chord, and that's a partial D9 chord, which is also, actually I guess you consider that a C shape. We descend down, that's another version of a D, and into the D7 shape. Now we're back at A, and we're going to use the same A as before, but this time we're going to use a walking bass. So I'm using the same old G-shaped A chord, but the walking the bass, 5th string open, 4th fret, 4th string 2nd fret, 4th fret. Then I'm going to slide this finger down. This becomes the G chord, and this will be the 7. So my 7th is played there and here, and I walk the bass down. Right? And then finally back to my D. Let me play that one more time slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4.